Another quick tie. Your next fly starts here.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another Quick Tie. My name is Tim Hepworth here with Fly Fishing Bover Outfitters and Thursday Night Live Fly Tying. And tonight we are tying up the Sulfur Soft Hackle fly. Very beautiful, artistic, yet somewhat simple fly. Great for swinging and all around a great pattern. Can be definitely varied in some different colors with hackles and all sorts of dubbing and whatnot, but we're going with the sulfur version tonight, kind of a classic color pattern, but a really great fly. Excited to take you through it. I want to thank Western Canada Fly Fishing Guide School for sponsoring this quick tie tonight. You can see all the information below. If you have any interest in taking guide school or just curious about it, reach out to us either through email, you give us a call, or just head over to the website and you'll see some more information there. I'm going to be tying out of my Season 7 kit today. It looks like this. If you don't already have one of these, you still can get them over at our website, and you're going to get enough flies or enough materials to tie 26 different patterns. The ones we've already done and the ones still to come. You can always come back and watch these quick ties and go through all of those. If you're tying out of our individual kits, that's great as well. Packaging isn't going to look quite the same as the box, but the materials are going to be identical. And if you don't have any of our kits, that is totally fine as well. Head over to our website. As you see in front of me there, you can see all of the recipes for this fly and all the other flies that we've done and the ones that are coming up. All the fly recipes are there. Use your own materials and tie along with us. All right, let's head over to the vise and take a peek at this fly. So this is what we're working with. So it is, it's a soft hackle fly. So most often this would be a swung fly. I wouldn't necessarily think of it as a streamer per se, but more of a swinging fly. Definitely can give pulse actions, things like that. That hackle that's sitting up is giving it lots of motion in the water, yet it's very light, unweighted, and it's gonna not get down super far depending on the line you're fishing, but is super effective, even especially in like swinging in the riffles, things like that. This one we're tying in the sulfur color today, so we're gonna be putting in that yellow dubbing just behind our hackle. Otherwise, it's tied similar to a pheasant tail. We're gonna be using pheasant tail for our tail and our body, and then just a little bit of work up at the head, and it creates this really awesome pattern. Let's go ahead, we're gonna get this one out of the vise. We'll get our next hook in. We are tying this in a size 14 tonight, so the only real challenge in this one is that we are tying it pretty small, and there is a little bit of work to go into on such a small hook. Make sure once you get that in your vise, it's good and secure. I'm gonna go over and grab my thread, which is tonight is gonna be some UTC 70 in black. Something thinner is definitely gonna be the right option on this fly. I'm going with black because it's a nice, neat color at the head of the fly. You definitely could do it with a brighter colored thread if you wanted a hot spot on the front of this fly as well. I'm gonna start by going ahead and getting my thread started just behind the eye. You can trim out that tag end. I'm gonna work my thread all the way back to the top of the hook bend, and this is where we're gonna be tying in our first material. That's gonna be somewhere around the barb of the hook, if you did it quite right like that. Now, the first material we're gonna go ahead and tie in here is actually gonna be my wire. I'm using some size small copper color wire. This is going to be the rib that's going to come up and over and secure that pheasant tail down. I'm going to start by just getting that fixed to the near side of the fly, take a few thread wraps forward, then bring it back. The reason I'm starting with this is because we're going to lay our tail down on top, and we're actually going to use the remaining material from our tail to just continue wrapping forward. So I want my wire already in there so it's ready to go to secure that pheasant tail as we come forward. Now I want you to go grab a clump of pheasant tail out of your kit, somewhere in that like 8 to a dozen fibers. It's gonna look something like this. We're not really going for a huge bulky tail, but definitely a tail that's there. I'm gonna measure this out so that it is roughly about half the hook shank in length out the back of the fly, half to 3/4. I wouldn't go much longer than that. I'm then gonna switch my hands over, get a good pinch, making sure this material is gonna stay right up on top of my hook shank. I'm just gonna give my bobbin a clockwise spin. For me, it'd be counterclockwise if you're a right-hand tire. And we just wanna get this fixed down right up on top of the hook shank here. I could take just a couple of wraps rearward, but I don't wanna go much further back as that's right where the remaining material is gonna start getting wrapped forward. I'm gonna lift up on my tag end, take a wrap in front, and take this forward. I'm gonna do a quick little half hitch here. I'm gonna secure my work and get my thread up out of the way. And then I'm just gonna start wrapping my pheasant tail forward, nice touching wraps. Covering up all my thread the best that I can. And we're gonna take this not all the way to the eye of the hook, as we do have those other materials we still have to put in up here. I'm gonna take it right about to here. So I'm gonna leave myself a couple eye lengths back from the eye. I'll bring my thread back over, and I'm gonna secure this first behind the material, then in front. And we wanna repeat that process twice, behind and in front, just to make sure we get that locked down really well. And then we're gonna snip out the tag ends, that pheasant tail, and then we're gonna bring our wire forward. Make sure you kind of clear all of those tail materials. We're gonna start just palmering this forward, nice open wraps, gonna give a little bit of segment and shine to the underbody. And really it's there to help secure that pheasant tail. Same thing, thread wrap behind, thread wrap in front to secure. And once we get that good and secure, you can either helicopter it off or you can go in there and snip it out with some dull scissors. And now we're gonna get to our next material, which is just gonna be our yellow dubbing you have in your kit there. This is a dry fly dubbing, so it's very, very fine. We're gonna make a decent little dubbing noodle here because we do wanna get a little bit of bulk in this little bulb, this sulfur colored bulb that we want to shine through behind that hackle. So I'm just gonna start by pinching some on my thread here and start twisting it in that same motion, making that noodle as tight as I can. And once I get all of that thread covered, I get, you know, an 1.5 inches, 2 inches worth of a dubbing noodle. I can always pull it out if I don't need it. Then I'm gonna start wrapping right where I finished with that pheasant tail. I'm gonna start making just a little kind of bulb here. I'll take it forward just a bit, then kind of wrap back on top of it. Take it forward again, just remembering I gotta leave a little bit of space up front here. I think that's enough on this now. I need to leave some space for that hackle feather that I need to wrap still. So once I have that complete, finish with my thread just in front of that dubbing. And then we're gonna go ahead and prep our feather, which we're gonna tying in here. Our Hungarian partridge feather. Very nice barred, polka dotted feather. You need to, first thing you gotta do is you gotta come in here and expose just the very tip, because that's what we're gonna tie in first. We wanna start with the smaller fibers or the shorter fibers and get longer as we start wrapping. So I'm gonna come in here and expose just the very tip and try to grab a hold of it. Grab it right here. And then I'm gonna pull those fibers back and down. I don't wanna tear them off the stem, so you gotta be careful with the pressure you're using. But we need to expose just enough to tie this in. And sometimes these feathers can be a little frustrating to work with, as they're very short for the most part on these soft hackle feathers. And we don't wanna take any extra fibers with us when we tie it in than we have to. We try to pull it rearward. I'm just exposing just that very tip to tie in. And I'm gonna tie that tip in with the underside of the feather pointed rearward down the fly. So the underside of the feather pointed rearward. I'm gonna tie that in, take a couple of thread wraps up and over, as well as I'm gonna lift up the tip and put a couple of thread wraps in front of it, just to really secure that down so I know it's not gonna come out. But before I keep wrapping this forward, I wanna come in here and make sure I get that tip that I just tied back. I wanna make sure that that's trimmed out, as that can cause the feathers to not orient properly, or the fibers from this feather once I start wrapping forward. We wanna trim those all out. Now, hackle pliers are definitely gonna make this a little bit easier for you. I do like the plunger style hackle pliers like these guys when working with these shorter feathers. I'm gonna come in here and hook it on the stem, and I'm gonna lift it up vertical so I can see it. And now the goal is to try to fold the feathers rearward. So as I start to wrap, they're all gonna head rearward around the fly and not forward. We want them to kind of sway backwards in a natural fashion. And if I can get 2 to 3 turns on this and have space, that's gonna be kind of the goal. You don't wanna do much more than that. We really don't need a ton of the feather. And I'm just constantly trying to pull up so I'm not trapping any of them and then folding them rearward. Just like this. And I'm also kind of checking as I go, bushing it up, making sure to see how much I actually have on that hook shank. And I'm very comfortable with what I have on there now, so I'm gonna wiggle my thread the best I can through, because you don't want to trap any of those down, and I need to get my thread to go through across that stem of the feather and then down in front. And I'm gonna pull rearward to keep pressure on it and take some thread wraps in front. If you trap down a few fibers here, don't get stressed about it. We can fix that with our thread in just a moment. And I'm going to repeat that one more time because we always want to go twice, once behind, once in front, and repeat. Just like that. Now, I'm going to come in here and trim out the stem and do your very best not to cut any extra pieces if you can. And slide that guy out of there like that. And now I'm just going to brush it back with my fingers a little bit, pull all those fibers rearward, and I want to create a nice little head on this fly, covering up any of those stray fibers at all, just like that. Now I'm going to come in here, you can either whip finish this fly or half hitch it. I prefer the half hitch on these smaller flies. I'm going to take my half hitch tool, wrap my thread around it twice, come just over the eye with the tool, let the knot slide off and come tight. I am going to put some resin on here too, so I'm not too concerned about the knots themselves. And then I'm going to come in here, trim out my thread, and we are almost done the Sulfur Soft Hackle. Trim that out. I also like to come in here and just give a little brush rearward on that hackle feather. But essentially, once that's in the water, all those fibers are going to fold back into the fly itself and just create a real buggy looking fly. And now all I got to do is I'm going to add a little bit of resin just to that thread wraps at the head. I'm going to go ahead and use my UV Solarez Bone Dry. Gonna just cover the edge of the threads with it, let it soak in a half a second, and then I'm gonna hit it with my torch. Just like that, let it cure. And there you have it. There is your Sulfur Soft Hackle swinging fly in a size 14. Beautiful pattern. Hopefully your guys has turned out something like that. Great pattern to have in the box. Definitely vary some in colors if you want to as well. But this is one of my personal favorites in this specific scheme. All right, guys, again, my name is Tim Hepworth here with Fly Fishing Bover Outfitters and Thursday Night Live Fly Tying. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. Drop us a comment. Let us know if this fly went good for you. If you have any feedback on it, and let us know if you fished it before or if you fish it in the future. We'd love to know how it works for you. All right, guys, until next time, we'll be back with another fly before you know it.